the screen. What I want to flick to now is just a couple of other examples. Again, these aren't actually running live, these are screen grabs, but you can see here's an event. This is actually Microsoft TechEd, which took place last year in Berlin. Just to give you a feel for the scale of this event, there's something like, it's very much a multi-track environment, there's something like 30 presentation rooms all running in parallel. So this is where the system really comes into its own. So what you're looking at here is the screen outside a particular room. In this case, it is room 7.2C Dublin. So you can see at a glance what's on and what's coming up later in the day. Again, just the next 4 things. So kind of what's relevant to the current point in time. Also on this, you'll notice down the bottom I've got some mid-animation actually, so they're a bit little at the moment, but the sponsorship strapline. So that is the area that we actually sold to suppliers to help pay for the signage system. So the Cisco's and the HP's and so on had some presence themselves on the signage system. So that, as I said, that's the screen that appeared outside the rooms. There were 30 of these. Again, all the one server, all controlled centrally. And here you're seeing more, this is more of the foyer scenario. So giving you an overview of the whole event. And you can see on the left-hand side, the current sessions, page 3 of 5. So that actually stepped through all of the rooms. But it's nice and big, so you can read the content easily from a distance. And then on the right-hand side, that panel is showing you sessions that have changed. So this event does actually have I think there's some paper versions as well, unfortunately. But this highlights to delegates things that they might not have spotted, any changes which have come in on the day. Just on this one as well, while it's up, I know it's a slightly unusual format. This was actually projected into 2 square recesses on a building. So what you're seeing basically is a single projection image using two square boxes. So that's just showing the flexibility of the system and a completely different look for it. But again, all running off the same server, the same infrastructure.
And of course, you saw that big stack of paper. It ticks the eco box as well, because you do away with all of that, don't you? Yeah. So are there any other features? What else can it do?
Lots of things. As I say, because it's a Blitz owned product, many of the things that the system can now do have been driven by people like your good selves. So we're responding to requests, wacky or otherwise, that our clients have. So what has started as quite a simple system has now become quite a powerful beast. So I'm just going to have a look at some of the things now. Going back to TechEd, we realized that the good people at Microsoft actually have their own database. They have the entire show, given its complexities, sitting on a web server. It's actually in the States somewhere. So that data is already there. So it would be utter madness for us to sit there, pull that data out, cut and paste it, or even type it into our system, heaven forbid. 1, because that's going to add errors to the data. 2, because they're making changes to their content, and therefore we need to make sure that we catch all of those updates ourselves as well. So the very simple solution in this case was to connect the 2 systems together. So using the power of the interweb, we could pull data down from Microsoft and update our system in real time. Okay, so given the complexities of this event, 30 rooms, there's a lot of data there to look after. At the end of the day, the client, Microsoft, actually had ultimate control of what was on the signage screens because it was their data that we were looking at. Okay, so that's something probably for the bigger events. The smaller ones, we would maintain the agendas on the server locally. Here's another one, and you probably spotted this earlier on the TechEd example I had up on screen. Those little dots there, red, amber, green. What do they mean? Well, they are session capacity indicators. So, green, the room has space. Amber, the room's going a little bit full. And red, doors are closed. We are full. This is incredibly powerful in the bigger venues. Now, this event takes place at one of the German messes. I don't know if you guys know those, but these are huge conference venues that make Excel look small. It's probably kind of a mile each side. It's a huge space. So by giving this information centrally that a room's approaching capacity, you've probably saved delegates a good walk in some cases because they can see on these central foyer screens that their sessions are full, and therefore there's no need to make that big hike to the other end of the venue. Okay, so that's the Microsoft Session Capacity Indicator, although it would work for, of course, other clients equally. Here's another one, a visual countdown to the session start. So again, looking at that red, green, and blue example we had just now, you can see that in the 5 minutes before the presentations kick off, we actually change the screens to this format. So you can see at a glance what's coming up, nice and big and bold, and you've got at the bottom of the screen a countdown time. So that counts down the last 5 minutes from 5 to 0. Really powerful. It makes sure delegates get to the room on time. It also keeps the whole event running to time as well, which is a really powerful feature. Integrated into this, we also had automated audio announcements, which would sound something like this.
Your next session will commence in 5 minutes.
Okay, so bang on the dot, bang on the 5 minutes, the system would pump out that little audio bite. Okay, moving forwards. Another kind of a Blitz add-on to the signage system. This one is the meeting availability indicator. A lot of the big corporate events we work on, a very big part of the event is what they call one-on-one meetings. So it's between yourself and a big CEO or CFO. And sometimes we find that the client has some availability pop up, so someone drops out or someone comes early, so you've suddenly got some big wigs available to meet with. So again, this was advertised through the signage system, which had details about those companies anyway. So using the web-based control panel, you're actually seeing a screenshot of it here. So this is what the admin interface looks like. It was nothing more, and the client could do this, to be honest with you. You would find your company, you would tick the "We have one-on-one availability" checkbox, and that would then render itself graphically. So what you might see on a plasma screen is something like this. So rather than showing a list of names, because the logos are in the system, we can fill a screen with the companies available to meet with. Again, here's just a few examples of the system in action. So you can see a super wide projection. So that's 4x3 screens butted up against each other with a kind of rather than time going down the screen, it's going left to right, or right to left actually. So again, that timeline moves across as we go through the day. So as I say, in terms of how the system looks, totally flexible.
You're also looking into ways of tracking delegates, aren't you?
Yes, there's quite a few things that
stalkerish and worrying.
Big Brother is watching you.
A bit,
there's a few things that we're looking at Blitz at the moment in terms of moving the system forward ourselves, new features which we hope our clients find useful. The first is, just before we move on to delegate tracking, multiple device support. So a lot of you have got smartphones, you've got your own laptops, your delegates have got their own devices, iPads, iPhones, whatever. We're looking at ways of getting that data onto those devices. So rather than being reliant on just the screens that we're installing, making that data available beyond that. So maybe a little website you could log into on your device, specific for that event, and look at the event data. And then delegate tracking. Yes, here's one of my graphics colleagues here, Martina Watson. She's got a special RFID badge, so as she walks into a room, we know who she is. And we might say something like, hello, Martina Watson, welcome. You might show, for example, a meeting schedule specific to that delegate, show some content that's relevant to them. And of course, you know that the delegate has been near a certain screen, or they've walked through a certain door, or that they've perhaps visited a certain session. So you've got some really interesting information you can feed back to your clients about exactly who's been where and who's done what, which is, of course, the kind of information they tend to be dying for.
I don't know about delegate tracking. I think speaker tracking could be quite popular in my experience.
Absolutely,
as well.
Yes.
So what do you think, Richard? What's the future for LiveView?
Well, it's going to be, as I say, it's constantly evolving. Give me ideas. I look forward to hearing the kind of things that you'd like to see added on. So, as I say, being a completely in-house solution, within reason, it can be what you want it to be. So, hopefully, maybe over lunch, you can have a chat to some of you and any ideas that you've got. So, it's a constantly growing product. Again, any questions that you've got about the LiveView system I've just shown you, or even some of the stuff we've talked in earlier today, text away to that number, and we'll address those in the Q&A, which is it next?
It is now,
it's
actually,
right
yes, in
now.
fact.
Well,
So
here's your last chance. Get those questions in.
Yeah.
We're going to prioritise the text ones. So that's all I have to say on signage, but thank you for listening.